protect the system.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Warner, Senator Britt from Alabama is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director Chopra, for being with us today. Number of questions that my colleagues have already hit on, but wanted to start with one that I asked some of the bank regulators before this committee a few weeks ago. And I asked them whether they believed our banking system to be strong. And every one of them said yes. And so my question to you is, do you agree with them that, in your opinion, the U.S. banking sector is strong?
Yes, I think it is a strong system, and one where we occasionally see some places where there could be resilience issues. Senator Warner just mentioned one of them, but certainly we always have to be looking to ensure that resilience.
Yeah, and I appreciate that all of you believe that. In my opinion, I look across the board, I look at some of the new rules, I look at some of the new implementations, and in my opinion, while everyone says it's strong, I feel like we're doing things simultaneously that are actually going to weaken the system overall, and particularly for the end user, particularly for the small businesses, particularly for everyday average Americans. And so I'm concerned by what I've seen, both at the Fed, at the FDIC, which I hear you play a significant role in, and at the SEC. So there are countless examples of regulators reaching beyond the mandates that we have given and seem to be rushing into very complex rulemaking, not thinking about how these things work together and then what that impact overall is going to be. And I believe it will be detrimental to our economy. And more importantly, when I'm looking at the people that I represent, I think small town Alabama is going to pay the price. So I want to start with the 1071 rule. So community banks provide over 60% of small businesses' credit needs, and that is nearly 2/3 of all small business loans. And to give you an insight into me, both of my parents were small business owners, so to me, this stuff matters. These banks offer a reliable and available source of credit to all of our small business community, and I am sure that you agree that you want to see those people thrive as well. So, Mr. Chopra, do you believe that this rule, as currently written, will help support small banks' ability to continue being the primary lender for small businesses?
Well, I want to make sure I share your view that we want local banks to be able to provide small business credit to everyone.
Do you think that this is going to continue to?
Well, let me share more, which is that we do know that there has been a lot of questions about who is getting small business loans, who isn't, and that really undermined PPP. So we were under a legal mandate, a court order to complete the rule. We exempted, I believe, an additional 2,000 banks from it. We reduced the number of data points.
And so court orders do matter to you. So what the Supreme Court says goes, kind of thing.
Of course. But we were also sued because the rule was not complete a few years ago.
But real quick, when you're talking about this rule, you've said that you're going to post these things online, if I understand correctly, some of the findings that you get from this expansive rule.
So just like the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act, there is going to be analyses of the data.
So will it be so where we could tailor it down to who in what community, how many people are asking for certain loans, who got them, who didn't?
Well, certainly we cannot allow it in any way to identify a small business owner.
Right. So that's my question. So will it be broad brush, or will you say in Franklin County, Alabama, this is who got it and this is who didn't?
Well, that sounds way like it could re-identify. So here's what we've outlined in the rule. We won't be able to post things for probably years. We'll look at the data and we'll go through the process of making sure that we're publishing analyses. Many of them may be aggregated at the state level, regional level.
So you're saying that you won't, because you're from, is it Plainville? Is that right?
No.
No, where are you from?
I'm from outside Philadelphia.
Outside of Philadelphia. Yeah. And so how big of a community is that?
It's a pretty large metropolitan area.
So I just think to this, and it's interesting to hear you say it'll be years, because we have small community banks that are struggling with how they're going to do this, and they serve a community of 3,000 people, Red Bay, Alabama.
Well, then that wouldn't be published, and just like the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act doesn't publish
because there's certain things that you're asking for that it goes from protecting a consumer to invading their privacy.
Yeah, I agree with that. You do not want, especially demographic data, to be published that way.
But then, so you're saying you'll request it, but you're not going to publish it.
Well,
right?
There's often data that is used by law enforcement in order to determine
And
that the laws
I only have 10
followed.
seconds. I'm so
So
sorry.
that's why, if you can let me finish, I don't want there to be
If you'll
any
let me ask one
sense
more question.
that we're going to publish kind of and identify individual borrowers.
Great, because in 3,000 people, it's certainly
Agreed.
100% would, and I think that that is a deterrent. My question, the last question that I wanted to ask you was about community banks. Have you sat down with community banks to talk about the implementation of this rule and what they believe it means, or NFIB, small business owners? Have you done that?
Yeah, so I've actually met, I believe, with community bankers from every single state represented on this committee. I think we've met with maybe over 1,000 in small group meetings to talk about all the issues.
Okay.
We are actually on most small banks, so you're aware, will have a much delayed implementation date. The large banks will go first, and we've devoted some real
Yeah, because the
resources
small
to
banks
that.
don't have the resources to do this
agree.
kind of stuff. And if you have not met with Alabama community bankers, if we look at this and you have not, will you sit down with them for me?
Of course. I think we may have met with Alabama credit unions, but we'll check, and please help us organize.
And I would love for them to have a face-to-face with you. Would that be
course.
okay? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Britt. Senator Warren from Massachusetts is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So